Hello, I'm standing today in Burley Park, near the old stone town of Stamford in Lincolnshire. Stamford can trace its roots back to the days of pagan Danish invaders. But in this series of documentaries, we're going to see how Christianity took root here and positively flourished. We're going to be examining ancient church buildings, and we're going to be talking to church leaders and local Christians. And we'll see how Stamford has been wonderfully enriched by the churches, which down the centuries have been very much part and parcel of the life and indeed the fabric of this ancient and historic town. Here we are, near the centre of the town, and I'm standing in the grounds of St George's Parish Church. And with me today is John Hartley. John is an expert in the history of Stamford and a former master at Stamford Boys' School. John, welcome.
Rob, thank you very much indeed. We're standing here in a little square in the heart of Stamford, a medieval square, which has been done up time and time again, so that round one side there are still medieval houses. Behind me there are 17th and 18th century houses. And right at the heart of it is this church, St George's Church. It actually stands in a triangle rather than a square, but it's an interesting place.
John, thank you for setting the scene. Let's go inside and explore the interior.
Yes.
John, St George's has obviously been here for a very long time. Is it true it was mentioned in the Domesday Book?
Well, in fact, Rob, it wasn't mentioned in Domesday, but was in existence certainly by the 1190s. And like all the Stamford churches, it's got evidence of alterations and rebuildings at various times in the 13th and 14th and 15th centuries. And particularly, and most importantly, Sir William Bruges provided money for rebuilding in 1450.
I'm glad you mentioned Sir William Bruges, because we know that he was the first Garter King of Arms, and St George's has always claimed to be the original church of the Knights of the Garter, and their motto, Honi soit qui mal y pense, evil be to him who evil thinks, is seen in a couple of the windows. But what in practical, down-to-earth, nuts and bolts terms did Sir William give to the church?
He gave a huge range of things to the church, things for the services, silver candlesticks, censers for burning incense. He gave vestments for the priest to wear, clothing, special clothing for the services for the priests to wear. He made sure that the church had everything it needed to operate in the late Middle Ages. There were many things like this silver boat that he gave to the church. That's a similar one. All those gifts that he made to the church have gone now, so we don't have any of them.
Was it just items like this, items to be used in public worship?
No, there were many items he gave towards the rebuilding of the church. He died in 1450, and in his will he asked that he should be buried in the middle of the choir, the chancel today. And above his head there were to be angels in the roof, one bearing the signs of Christ's wounds on his hands and feet, and the other bearing a pierced heart. And you can still see those today.
So Sir William was obviously a major benefactor to the church. But what about all the other people whose memorials we see here?
Rob, that's a really interesting one, because on the wall of the chancel are two important 18th century monuments to members of the Cust family. They're connected with the Brownlows of Belton House. Sir Richard Cust is a particularly fine monument. And then next to him, there's a monument to Savile Cockayne Cust. And as you read it, there's a tremendous recommendation to the Almighty that he ought to have him in heaven because he's such a splendid fellow. There isn't any religious sentiment in it at all.
But I believe that Sir William Bruges had a quite different attitude.
Certainly. In his will, his attitude is shown very clearly. Let me read you some of it. First and foremost, I bequeath my soul to the great mercy of our Lord God Jesus, that suffered pain and passion of his great mercy to bring my wretched soul from the carnal pain and damnation to the eternal bliss and redemption. So, as you hear, the attitude was very different.
And I believe there's another memorial on the wall which expresses much the same attitude as Sir William Bruges, but over 350 years after his death.
Yes, there's a memorial to a Lady Margaret Thompson, whose tablet is high on the wall at the east end of the nave. And that tablet reflects the change that took place in England in the late 18th century, soon after the casks were buried here in the town. And it reflects as much as anything a revival of interest in religion rather than popular approval of good society.
John, thank you for talking to us today. So it's clear from what John has said that this note of strong personal faith has been present at St. George's in past generations. But what about today? What about the here and now? Time to see the rector.